Good morning. I'm out in this beautiful forest right now, just taking a morning hike. You know, one of the things that I love most about wildlife photography is that it takes me to these beautiful and wild landscapes. I love exploring forests and mountains, the desert and the Alaskan tundra in search of wildlife. But some encounters take me a little bit closer to home. I want to share with you guys today one of my favorite encounters that I've had. It was a recent encounter, and where did it take place? Right in my own neighborhood. When starting off in wildlife photography, I always thought that I needed to escape into the wild to get pictures of animals, but I soon learned that this is not the case. A neighbor approached me a couple of weeks ago and told me about a family of owls that had showed up in their yard. A couple days later, I was able to make it over to their yard for a visit. They showed me the area where the owls had been hanging out, and sure enough, we were able to see two of them. These are Western Screech Owls, probably the most common neighborhood-dwelling owl in my area. The sun was already setting as my neighbors showed me the owls. They were in a deeply shaded corner of their yard, and I was able to get a few seconds of footage as they hopped around some branches and even perched on the garbage can that was tucked away in the corner. We had a good conversation about these beautiful little birds, and I was able to explain to them their habits and even identify where one of the adults was hiding because of a nearby chittering robin. It was soon too dark to photograph and even get video footage, so we scheduled a time for me to return in the coming days. My neighbors were incredibly accommodating with my schedule and let me come back as often as I wanted to check on the owls. These baby screech owls were already at the point where they were moving around a lot and testing out their wings, so it was hard to track them down at times. Over the coming days, I was able to spend a couple of hours watching these spunky little birds. Most of that time was spent watching them as they napped and as they hid deep in the branches of the nearby trees. Overall, it was a wonderful opportunity as I've never photographed baby screech owls before. My neighbors were incredibly respectful of the little birds and anxious to learn about them and tell me all of their interesting behavior that they saw when I wasn't there. Screech owls are one of the easier species of owl to get to nest in your yard. A simple owl box or an old woodpecker hole in a tree makes a good home for these tiny little owls. During the mating season, you can hear them calling at night, and it's a good way to locate any breeding pairs. I've seen far more Western Screech Owls in residential areas than in wild areas, and these are wonderful species to try to attract to your neighborhood or even your own backyard. You know, I love photographing wildlife in a more wild setting like this, but honestly, I'll photograph animals wherever and whenever I can, whether it's out here in the forest or back at home in my neighborhood or in my yard. I've come out with videos before where I talk about that, some things that you can do to help wildlife feel comfortable in your yard and in your neighborhood so that you can photograph them. As always, I'll put links to those videos in the description below so you can check them out if you haven't done so already. One of the best parts of photographing those little owls was just knowing that they felt so comfortable being in my neighborhood, nesting in my neighborhood. I really hope that they return and nest again in my neighborhood next year, and I can't wait to see if they do. And maybe one of these years they'll nest in my own yard. That would be so fantastic if I could share that with you guys. Let me know in the comments some things that you do in your own neighborhood or yard to help wildlife feel comfortable. This is something that I love doing. I've spent a lot of time and effort in my own yard to help wildlife feel comfortable there, so I would love to hear from you some of the things that you do to help animals feel comfortable in your own yard. I hope you guys enjoyed the brief yet wonderful encounter that I had with those little owls. They're so special and so much fun to photograph. You know, these biting flies are starting to get me real bad here, so I'm going to hit the trail again and see if I can find anything along the way. Thanks for following along this week. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.